of an intro. I tell you what you info, but I never really been the type of dude to give no info.
Welcome to the Walk and Grill podcast, everyone. It's Roney and Courtney on the mic, and this is the last week of the month, so you know what that means. It's the Tool of the Month episode, and Courtney is going to bring a tool that she previously talked about, but we're going to talk about a different piece of it. So, Courtney, if you don't mind, go ahead. Let's get right into it and give the people what they want.
Jump right into it today.
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked a lot about communication. This is a communication tool. We've talked a lot about communication, but last time I gave you a little bit of options. I gave you 3 options to choose from. You didn't want to do communication that day, so we're doing it today.
All right.
We're going to make Ronnie learn communication skills whether he likes it or not. So
you're
we
telling
didn't
me
really...
that I don't already know the communication?
That's not what I said.
Okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
But I can't wait to hear you say these things now, moving forward.
I don't know if I'm going to say it.
Actually, just because you're teaching me this tool doesn't mean I'm going to use it. But anyway.
That's not what I said.
Before I lose this thought, we've talked about types of communication. We've talked about, Ronnie doesn't like when I quiz him, so I'll just say it. Passive, aggressive, assertive, and manipulative communication. This is a way to be assertive when we're communicating. As if we remember, we want to communicate assertively because we are stating our needs, saying how we feel without being aggressive, without being rude, without being, anything unnecessary. So this is a skill that helps us to communicate assertively. So it's really great in relationships. It's great with a partner. But it's really just great, honestly, all the time. It's good professionally because being assertive professionally is important. But yeah, so I think I always come back to relationships probably because you communicate most with your partner, and you need to have positive communication with a partner. But yeah, it's good to use all the time. And it's just good practice for yourself. It's just thinking about yourself first. So we're talking about I statements today. Have you heard of I statements before?
I have not. And I just used the I statement. Haha.
I have not. Not really. Because there has to be an emotion.
Okay.
So there's 3 parts to an I statement. And I usually have this stuff written down in front of me. So I know it from memory, but it'll be funny to do it all from memory. So there's 3 parts of an I statement. It is the emotion, the situation, and the solution. So when I teach this to clients, I usually recommend observing the situation first. So if you think of a situation in your head, it could be, it could be high conflict. It could just be something, whatever. I mentioned, I was telling you previously how I was supposed to spend time with somebody, but I needed to set a boundary because I needed rest.
Yeah.
That's a perfect example to communicate assertively. Not because it was going to be a conflict, not because it was going to be an issue, just because I needed to kind of set a boundary for myself. So that was a perfect example to use an I statement. So the situation would be canceling on a friend because I need rest or whatever it is. So how do I feel? What is the feelings associated with it? I feel, if this is a situation, I feel exhausted. I feel ill. I feel, whatever it is. I feel tired. I feel sad that I'm canceling, maybe just kind of going within yourself and identifying what the feelings are.
You're just listing everything pretty much to kind of analyze.
Well, right now we're preparing kind of.
Okay.
So this isn't necessarily the statement. We're just kind of preparing the statement. Just observing how you feel. I think a lot of times in communication, we don't do that. We just talk, right? We just go and someone says something that bothers you and you just respond. Where if we really sit and identify how we feel before we communicate it, it's going to be a lot more clear. So the statement itself is done by saying, I feel tired. I feel whatever it is, that this happened, that the situation, and then adding a solution. Okay. Does that make sense?
So I feel emotion that this, whatever occurred.
That situation. Mm-hmm.
Then it's what was the last one again?
Solution.
Okay, so pretty much because this occurred, what's the solution?
Yep. So I'm going to use an example more so if they're like conflict resolution. If there was something that, if we ever had a disagreement, social media
Which we do all the
related,
time.
or all the time, constantly fighting, can't agree on anything. I would
ridiculous.
say I feel betrayed
Oh,
when
that's how you feel?
when my ideas are not validated or appreciated. Can we have more open conversation about why we're not using my ideas on social media?
Okay, so in that situation, let's just say the person says no. Then what?
Then you used fantastic communication. Congratulations. And your partner needs to have better communication skills. And if that was the case, if you use positive communication and literally you got shut down, there's something to be said for, is this a space you need to be in if that's literally how you're being treated? But I would also maybe, is there another solution? Like, literally just being like, okay, is there another solution that you can find?
Okay.
Or do you feel like how did you feel in the situation? Did you feel like your actions were valid in that case?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Fair.
You're still opening up a positive line of communication.
Yeah.
So the whole point of an I statement is that same situation, right? Ronnie and I fight all the time. He never cares about my ideas or whatever it is. I'm smiling on YouTube for anybody listening on Spotify. I could say, Ronnie, you're the worst. I hate doing this with you.
Yeah.
You never take me seriously, right? Which one is going to be received more appropriately? Which one is going to be received and met with like, okay, yeah, we need to, that solution does sound good. And being solution oriented, coming to the space with a solution, helps the other person to see like, okay, yeah, there is stuff that we can do. One of the ways that I would challenge you or challenge anybody using an I statement is a lot of times the whole point of the I statement is it's your perspective, right? We're not shooting things at you. You're the worst, whatever it is, right? We're not doing that. Or you always do this to me, so on and so forth. It keeps the focus on us. But one thing that I see a lot when we practice is I feel sad when you do this. And it's like, no. So that can be, I think, the most challenging part of this, if not identifying emotions, which can be very difficult for some people. It would be keeping the focus on us. So like I said before, I feel betrayed. I feel sad. I feel disappointed, whatever it is, when my ideas are not being validated. My ideas are not being heard. So I still didn't say when you don't focus on me, when you don't appreciate me enough.
Yeah.
There's a way to phrase it so that it's still not placing blame.
That's interesting because it makes me bring up a conversation I had a couple of weeks ago, I would say, where a person was literally getting triggered off of somebody else's actions. And I was like, well, that's their actions. You can't allow those actions to impact you in the same way simply because that's the person. So how is it that you relay that message to them properly so that they understand it? Because it's like one of those things where one person gets triggered, the next person gets triggered, and it's just bound. We're just punching each other at the end of the day, and it's not going to get anywhere. So I like the way that you phrase it. So it's like, when I get or when I feel betrayed or when I get triggered, it's when you do this. So are you going to continue to do this, or just whatever the phrases that you decide to structure it in? But that's really cool. I like that. It makes me want even think about it now in a 3-step. Right? If I'm going to approach a difficult situation or have a difficult conversation, just like you mentioned, how do you go about it in a way where you don't come off as I don't want to say it, but a jerk. Or I want to say something else, but be nice for all the kiddos.
If you it's all the kids listening to our podcast. If I think about relationships, or you think about a lot of times when there's conflict resolution, it's with people who you talk to a lot or people who you're very close with. And it's easy to get frustrated with those people. Yeah. Right. It's easy to get frustrated with people in your house because you spend all the time together. Right. And like I always talk about, and I've said this to her, like me and my mom are very close. She's one of my favorite people, if not my favorite person. And she drives me crazy. Right? That's part of being my favorite person, is that you're going to drive me crazy. And you've been around my whole life, things like that. But being able, so with those people, it can be very difficult to remember the steps. But at the same time, it's like wouldn't you want those people who know you the best or who are the closest to you to really understand how you're feeling? And like I said, being assertive, really communicating how you feel, communicating how it impacted you. And you mentioning like a situation that recently happened. I think there's a time and space again, like, do you need to communicate? Are there things that you need to communicate, or like, do you just need to remove yourself from that situation? Right. There are certain times but if someone said something just in passing, or like I'm at a gathering with friends and I meet someone who I'm never going to see before, I feel hurt that you would make this statement, or like, you know what I mean? I don't necessarily need to communicate it in that space. But when we think about relationships and people we're close to, we want to make sure, again, putting your needs, you're prioritizing your needs is what you're doing. It comes back to boundaries, all those things. You're communicating your emotions, communicating your needs, but doing it in a way that doesn't cause conflict or doesn't create someone being defensive is the hope, of course. Yeah. So and again, that would be my challenge, is making sure when you put one together is that there is no you. Sometimes when you first start doing it, it might be, I feel sad when you do this, but just look at that statement again and how can I rephrase that? A lot of times, like I said, I've done this on whiteboards, or I will write on a piece of paper, all right, I feel when can we, just like kind of to start the solution part. And I'll have my teens fill it in.
Yeah.
So just fill it in that way. If you write it down, especially for a lot of teens, something is really, really frustrating them and they haven't even thought about addressing it yet. So this is the first time they're even considering communicating their feelings. So we have plenty of time to go through it. This isn't just an in the moment thing. And we've also talked about, here we are combining lots of tools. We've talked about taking a time out, right? We talked about that with Patrick, taking a healthy time out.
Yeah, going for a walk.
If you are taking, yeah, exactly, going for a walk. Some people take a shower to cool off, whatever it is. If you take a time out from the conversation, from the frustration that you're feeling, take a breath, gather your thoughts, gather yourself in general, come back and approach the situation with an I statement. This made me feel frustrated. This made me feel disappointed, whatever it was. And really, also, especially with teens, I get a lot of happy, sad, mad. It's like, try what else is it? Because I've mentioned, I'm not an angry person. I don't know if I've ever felt anger. I've felt betrayed. I have felt disappointed. I've felt, one word that I've been using frequently, unfortunately, is undervalued. And personally, I can't think of a worse emotion to feel, but I've been feeling undervalued in certain spaces. I think if someone comes to you and says, I feel undervalued in this area with you, that to me, I would be like, ooh, I'm going to listen to what this person says, rather than like, I feel pissed off. It's like, okay, sorry. You know what I mean? So really just trying to get to the bottom of your emotions and try to communicate it as clearly and assertively, like I said, as you can. But any questions?
No, I mean, it's kind of straightforward. And
yeah,
I just hope that people take these tools and try to implement them. And it's not going to be a tool that you're going to have to remember these steps in this structure, right? It's not something that you're going to just be able to implement tomorrow and be like, all right, you got it all down and packed. No, you're going to have to remind yourself. So maybe write it down in your notes or keep it close to you so that you can constantly remind yourself when these different scenarios and situations occur, because it's going to happen. It's just a matter of when, right? So when those situations occur, you know exactly how to proceed and move on with yourself to have a positive experience in the long run and not have to make that situation worse, because I think that's what ultimately it comes down to. It's when there's a lack of communication or a lack of understanding, everything just goes into spirals.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, this goes into something a little bit deeper, but I think people just need to be more in touch with their emotions anyway. I think the more we understand how we are feeling, the easier it will be to communicate. And like I said, I think, and like you just said, I think we just communicate. We just kind of say whatever is on our minds at the time, especially in conflict. And if we're not in touch with our emotions, it's just going to be, you always do this or you do that, and emotions aren't even going to be part of it. But if you can really share how you feel and how something impacted you, it's going to at least open up a line of more positive communication. You cannot control, I wish we could, but you cannot control anybody else's response, anybody else's reaction. But at least we can leave the conversation understanding that, like, I made my needs known. I communicated how I feel authentically. And I know that I did it with a level head. So I can leave the conversation knowing I did what I had to do to have positive communication overall.
Yeah, I haven't said this in a while, but don't forget, guys, control the controllables. That's really it. So this was a bit of a short episode. Let me know if you like this kind of short episode format, and just kind of give us feedback on it. Or would you prefer us to have it a little bit longer with more details and more personal experience? Because, again, this is all for you guys. I am going to get the tools that I need. I got Courtney right here by my side. I have a phone number. I can do everything I need. I'm going to have the tools, guys. It's just a matter of, how do you guys want these tools to be delivered to you? Would you rather it be quick, nice, short, simple, or would you prefer, a little bit more examples? So till next time, keep on applying those perspective, education, growth, and collaboration.